So it is now my pleasure and honor to introduce our very first storyteller, B.C. Cameron.
Thank you. What a great turnout. This is great. I actually did the very first one of these a year ago, and so they very kindly invited me back as a celebration for the anniversary. And I'd like to start out by saying any of you who did not see the disclaimer about the adult language, that would be me. Just keep in mind, it's a quote, okay? So I'm going to take you back to 1977. I was in my hometown, back in my hometown in Colorado, and I was a musician, playing on the road, traveling around, and I had a little trio. We were called Snickers, a fistful of nuts in every bar. And we were home for a little while, and my mom said, you know what, they're going to film a movie nearby, and your old 6th grade teacher is going to hire all the extras, local extras. You should go get a job as an extra. So the 2 guys in my group and I went down and we tried out, and sure enough, we got hired, as everybody within a 50-mile radius got hired. And we did this movie, and I had really never thought about where movies came from or how they were made, and I was absolutely fascinated by that process. So we finished the movie, and well, I worked as an extra, but I got to do a stand-in job too. I stood in for Jane Fonda, which at the time was exciting, not so much so now, but then it was exciting. And so, you know, we finished the movie, and I went on about my music. I was playing music and writing songs and, you know, working hard. So in 1978, I decided to move to Southern California, and I was going to sell my songs and be a star. So I got to Southern California, and it didn't take me long to figure out I was going to need an income. So I thought, I'll work as an extra. So I got a job as an extra and a stand-in, and I was doing good. And somebody else said to me, you should be a production assistant. You should get a job as a production assistant. I said, okay. So I did. So I got a job as a production assistant on a movie. It was a pretty big movie. It had Chevy Chase and Carrie Fisher, Pat McCormick. Pat wrote part of it. And it was a movie that took place during the time that they were filming The Wizard of Oz. It was called Under the Rainbow. And the premise of the story was that it took place in the hotel where all the little people that worked as munchkins stayed. They housed them in this hotel, and it was a wild ride with those little folks. But anyway, it's a spy mystery kind of comedy parody thing that happens in the hotel with all the little people. So I'm working away as a production assistant. I was so excited. I got to get Chevy Chase's scrambled eggs with Tabasco sauce. And I got to get Carrie Fisher's coffee with cream, but no sugar. So I'm just excited as can be. And one day we're on the set, and we're filming on this little tiny lot called Laird Studios in Culver City, and we're shooting outside on the lot, and we're filming a dialogue scene. And there's this big building right across from us, about a 4-story building. It had these big windows that went out like this, and they were all open. And there was music blaring out of those windows. And our sound man is saying, guys, we can't shoot this with that music. You got to fix it. So the first assistant director, who, other than the director on the set, the first assistant is like the god, right? BC, come over here. I was so excited. The first AD is calling me to talk to me, and he knew my name. So I run over to him. He says, "B.C., run into that building, find out where that music is, and get it shut off." Okay. So I trotted off and went in the building, huge, cavernous building. And I'm walking through, there's not a soul in there. And I'm walking through, and I could hear the music, and I'm following to try to find it. Finally, I hear it. It's inside this building, and I open this room, and I open these big doors. And I look inside, and it's like this big cavernous room, bigger than this. Must have been like a dance rehearsal studio or something. So I walk in, and I look around. There's not a soul in there. And this music is echoing off the walls. So I walk around. I thought, I'll just go find out where that music is, and I'll turn it off. So I walk to the back, and I get all the way to the back, and in this little back corner, there's one guy. He's got a boxing thing, and he's boxing like this. So I go over and, "Excuse me, hello, excuse me." So I kind of scoot around so he can kind of see me in his peripheral vision. And I'm going, "Excuse me, hello." He looks at me. I said, "Hello, we're filming a movie outside, and the music is bothering us. We can't film because the music is so loud. So could we please turn the music down or turn this music off just for a little short time till we finish shooting?" Fuck you! Okay. So I left. And I walked out, and I went back out, and I'm so disappointed. I have to go tell the first AD I couldn't get the job done. So I go out, and I go up to him, and I tell him that there was a guy in there, and he wouldn't turn it down, and he was kind of mean. So he says, "Don't worry about it, don't worry about it." So he calls the producer over, and he sends the producer in there. And in about 5 minutes, the producer comes back out, and the music is turned off. He comes back out, and he goes over to the first, and I kind of walk over there to see if I can hear what's going on. The producer says, "You know who that was in there?" "No, who?" He says, "That was Sylvester Stallone, and he's training for Rocky III. I had not seen Rocky I or II. I knew the name, but I didn't know who he was. So I'm embarrassed. I'm thinking, oh, geez, well, whatever. He's not a nice man." So now I'm going to use a little movie term here. Cut to. We're going to cut to 2016. I've now retired from the Directors Guild, and I am working as the film site rep for the Los Angeles Equestrian Center. Because I know horses, and I know filming, and I know how to put them together. So I'm driving around in my little purple golf cart around the place, and I pull up and park in front of our little equestrian tack store. And I'm sitting on my cart, and I look up, and who is standing in front of that tack store? And I'm kind of looking at him thinking, he's on my territory now. So I see him, and he makes eye contact with me, and I go, "Oh, here we go." And he walks right up to me. And he says, "Hey, excuse me. My daughters are riding with one of your trainers, Tom Ferran, in the way back of the property there, and I parked my truck way back there. And I'm wondering, could you give me a ride on your golf cart back to my truck?" I said, sure. Jump on. Yeah, I'll take you. So he gets on the cart, and we're driving back there, and he says, you know who I am? And I said, oh, yeah, I know who you are. I said, we actually met once before. Oh, we did? I said, yeah, it's been a long time. 35 years. I said, I'm sure you don't remember. Yeah, he says, probably not. But he said, when did we meet? So I told him the story. I told him what he said to me. And we pull up to his truck. We're sitting on the cart there, and he's kind of sitting there quiet. He said, you know, now I think about it, I think you're responsible for my divorce. Really? I said, what? Well, he says, the way I see it, if you'd have called me on my crap that day, if you'd have called me out and told me what a jerk I was, what a butt I was being, I might have taken it to heart. And I might have been a nicer person after that. And I might have been nicer to my wife. And she might not have divorced me. So I figure you're responsible for my divorce. I said, fuck you. And he tipped his cowboy hat and he got in his truck and drove away. And I got to think, I thought, you know, there's a moral to this story. Maybe we need to call these people out when they act like that. Maybe we just, when these bullies come around, maybe we need to call them out on their stuff, you know? So I'm thinking back to that day, and I'm thinking, I should have said, and I thought back 35 years. I was a little different in those days. And I'm thinking, yeah, I'm standing in this deserted building with this buff guy with his feet planted and his elbows akimbo with boxing gloves on. And I said, no, sometimes discretion is the better part of valor.